You can't change and bring people together if you don't actually have radical authenticity. And that, especially now, that which AI can never do is to create something that you can never lie about it. Your body people know when they're in the face of authenticity. But music has this remarkable ability when it's designed for that purpose. And that's what I've devoted my life to, is music to crack open the heart. Because then this is the last thing I'll say. What I've learned is the only truly effective working heart is a heart that's been broken. That doing being equation is a secret to like balance in life. The other one is allow yourself to grieve.
I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition. Welcome back to the Life in Transition podcast. I am so excited to have with us today Gary Malkin, who is a multiple Emmy award-winning composer and a transformational media innovator who uses music to awaken the heart, elevate consciousness, and build bridges across cultures, disciplines, and generations. Gary, I've just loved getting to know you for the last few weeks, and most welcome to the Life in Transition podcast.
God, I can't imagine a title of a podcast more apropos for me at this moment.
Oh, that's awesome.
White knuckle central right going on right now.
Oh, well, the fact is, life is always in transition. Sometimes we recognize it. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have clear direction. Sometimes we have a lot of guidelines and lampposts, and sometimes we don't. And of course, those are a lot more white knuckle when we don't have that direction or feel disconnected from our guidance systems. But jumping in with you, Gary, what would you consider to be one of your most important or meaningful, impactful transitions that you've been through in your life, Gary?
The one that comes to mind, which is really surprising, because obviously the one that always comes up is becoming a father, that was like the game changer of a lifetime. And that continues to be like, my most proud co-creative act that I've ever done. She's my favorite person in the world. She's 33.
Awesome.
Genevieve Malkin is an impressive human being she's like, I like to say she's my favorite human.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
She's a tough talker. She tells it like it is, and sometimes that ain't pretty. But she's very, very strong in a beautiful way. But what comes to mind right now, given that I've been in such a massive transition in the last 15 years, where I lost a ton of money a long time ago in one of those Ponzi schemes in 14 years ago. And I mean, I lost everything I had. And I had a choice that I could try to go back to what I knew I could do, which is be a kind of a cog in the wheel of the Hollywood machine, or I could stay the course with my convictions, my passions, and my dedication to trying to explore the answer to the question, what destiny does music and conscious media have to serve that could actually raise the frequency of engagement on the planet? Nothing
small at all.
Grandiosity alert. Here we go. But so what it did was, now that with what happened, this event that comes to mind is this thing that happened last November was the game changer of game changers. Because in this day and age, when you get a lot of success, and as I have had, and then you lose everything in a heartbeat, it doesn't really prepare you for playing small, because I was having a big life. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I navigate this complicated phase called aging? Feeling my heart feels like I'm 40 years old. Aging is one of the trippiest things in the world, because you never really can look in the mirror and you're going like, what? Right?
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, until this thing happened, I didn't realize the degree to which I felt far out lost at sea. And around, how am I going to get out of this mess that all the wealth that I'd created had half of it went to my ex-wife, and the other half went to he who must not be named. So I didn't realize the depth at which I had been navigating adrenaline and fear, like every night before I went to bed, in a way that wasn't fun.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that.
And I was fueled by my passion and my dedication. So this event, not to belabor it, was that I was asked by one of the wealthiest families in Canada to, I met them at a very famous destination spa called Rancho La Puerta in Tecate, Mexico. I've been performing and speaking and training and giving classes there for 40 years. It's one of the most fantastic places on the planet. In fact, I got to set you up and get on the list because you and your wife will have a great week in exchange for lecturing. You'll have a great time. But she saw me do my thing. I have a number of things specifically to help people radically get into their authenticity and their transparency. It's a thing called the soul song process. And I've done it with individuals. I've done it with 1,000 women in a room. And it's phenomenally I'd love to even talk about it later if it makes sense. But it was something that came to me in a kind of a download.
Take it now, Gary. What is it? Now that you've piqued our interest, what is this soul song process?
So it's a funny story. I was asked to give a 20-minute talk at the Whidbey Institute Winter Gathering. Whidbey Island has an amazing set of thought leaders and game changers on that island. And they invited me to talk about my work, that the thing I'm most known for since I left Hollywood. The two things I'm most known for are the Scores to Thrive, which are the two documentaries that are the most watched documentaries in the history of the world, which is really true, actually.
That's awesome.
But then the other thing I'm most known for, and that I'm most proud of, is the work that I co-created with Michael and Doris Stillwater called Graceful Passages, a companion for living and dying. And that, maybe we'll talk about that later, but I was asked to speak about it. And I had never given, this was 2012, I had never given less than an hour talk. And I was pretty dependent upon my PowerPoint, not for bullets, but just the picture would remind me of what I was going to say, and then I'd say it. But if I didn't have that, I was really lost at sea, right? And so all night I'm working to try to drill my talk down to 20 minutes. And I just couldn't do it.
Oh, wow.
And I realized, so 4 a.m, I'm like,
oh, man. And then you got to perform the next day or that day?
Yeah, 9 o'clock in the morning, I was supposed to show up. Well, I was praying for divine intervention, but I didn't know it would be a complete storm and blackout of electricity. So at 8:30 before the talk, complete wipeout, and they still wanted me to talk. But I couldn't.
So don't get on your bad side, Gary, is what you're trying to say.
I couldn't use my PowerPoint at all, right?
Right.
And so I went outside, and I don't do this very often, but I literally asked God, okay, God, I don't think I know how to do this alone with you. So I need you to tell me what to do. And I gave the 20-minute talk. I prayed and I got this. It was the best talk I'd ever given in my life.
Wow. With no PowerPoint, totally sort of unsupported, but supported by the most heart you could have and the most connection to divinity.
And given who you are, it was the most authentic, vulnerable, transparent. It was straight from like my heart, right? So because they have this thing called open source workshops. So after that, it was so popular that there were like 30 workshops that were on the property. Half of everybody went to my workshop in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
And I needed power for what I was planning.
Right.
No power. That's when I went outside and went, okay. What the hell? I went, and then I had heard this message. And this is not common for me. By the way, I've never told this story online before. So
that's not the first guest to tell me that. I have a lot of those.
Yeah.
So thank you for being willing to share it with us.
Yeah. And so this voice said, just follow my cue. And I went, yeah.
Okay, but where do I listen for the cue? And what is the cue, right?
Right. And I went inside and I followed this remarkably simple, profound strategy step by step. And what it was first I loosened everybody up in singing together, because singing together, I'm really all about, I'm a musical curator of unitive experiences. Since I was a child, I played piano, a Broadway show in my family living room, and everybody was singing. And I was like, it's the happiest thing for me that I do. I've often said that if I could make a living leading a sing along, I would do it, but probably
what
get
could
old.
Be better, yeah.
It would probably get old a little bit, but I love it, right? So I first loosened everybody up, and then I asked everybody to go inside. I put some beautiful music on, in kind of inner contemplation. I asked them, go inside, and like that Clarence in the movie "It's a Wonderful Life." Look at your life. Where is it you're still experiencing suffering of any kind? Where is there a pattern in your life that is a long-standing issue that you're either late all the time, or you tend to be self-absorbed, and you tend to interrupt, and you get a lot of feedback, whatever it is, right? It's an aberration, and listen for what that is and where it's coming from. And now,
this was also being guided to you. You were following, like this was not prepared. This was just coming through you.
Yeah.
And so, how did you sense what was coming through you, Gary? Was it just something speaking and you were listening, or was it say this and then you repeated it? How did it feel?
It was more of I'm a sensory person, so it was more like talk about where you're suffering. That was all I got.
Okay.
Something like
okay.
That. And so then I asked them to feel like, where is there still an aberration that's still bugging you, right? And I would ask them to go and imagine that the being that they go to at 3 a.m. when life is, what.
Have some of those right now.
When you're on your knees, right?
Yes.
And whether it's your grandmother or Jesus or your favorite tree or your higher self or your guardian angel or whatever it is, go bring that being in and make believe that they're right behind you, and ask for them to hold space as you notice the ramifications of that pain, and ask this being to make a prayer for you that you could internalize, that would make you feel like he's got it's got your back. And I did one later, and just to demonstrate the experience. Mine was, there was so much SHIT in my life, loss of money and death of this and that I basically summed it up as, may Gary know that all is well no matter what. So this call to abiding faith that God's got me, even though it looks really like nobody's got me. And there's a lot of white water going on. And I needed some energy to calm me into knowing that somehow this is okay. That was my prayer soul song. So I'd asked him to do it. And then, rather than go on too long about this, I'll just say that one person who I just said, now who in this room knows that they're at a moment in their transition where they need a lightning strike for their evolutionary process? And 3 people raised their hands. So I picked the first person, and I worked with them, and I had helped them identify how it likes to move through time, like through rhythm, and the 90-year-old
woman likes to move through time.
The phrase. So
the prayer that they just came up with, how that prayer, that being, their spiritual being created for them, that prayer, how it moves through time. Okay.
And most people come up with way too long, and so I'll help them whittle it down. And I just knew intuitively, well, you're not going to be able to set that to music. It's too long. It's like it's a lyric, right? So I whittle it down to the essence of it. And then I said, okay, let's make it move through time. And I said, imagine that you're a good witch, and you're weaving this song into being, and say it in the way you want. And this 90-year-old woman who lived through the 40s said, in the swing style, may Judy know that she's loved and seen. And the 20-year-old later did like a every breath you take Sting kind of track, right? So how it lived in them, right? And I turned it into a chant that became a real song with a A, like 2 verses and a chorus. And I had the person stand up in front of the room, and everyone sang it to them.
Wow. So you took this 1 or 2 sentences, made it into a song, and then the whole room, hundreds of people singing it to them.
And I asked everybody to practice the art of not just saying the words, but feeling them and generating them from their core intent, bring it up to their heart, take it to their throat chakra, and send it to them as if you really mean it. And that person invariably, I've done this in almost every continent, everyone bursts into tears.
Yeah, of course. It's
And of
this
course,
real human love and connection.
And what I discovered, having done this hundreds of times, is that we live in such a weird society that feels totally comfortable about giving, but they're not very good at receiving. And so the thing that God was people's authentic intention to give them a blessing of their own prayer
Of their own creation,
came up
right?
with, that was for them, from them, and they couldn't sing. They needed to receive. And it's so powerful.
Wow.
And then it was done. And then I got everybody, once it was sung to that person, then I moved it into may we all know, and then may we all beings know. So then it turned into a blessing for everybody. And then I brought them around the piano and everybody was singing together. It was the first time it happened, it was so astonishingly powerful that I went to one of the thought leaders that was in the room that I really respected, who was, a major visionary author. And I looked at her and I went, that was like a repeatable thing, wasn't it? And they went, yeah.
Wow. And because you didn't have power and you couldn't do your normal thing. And then you were willing to trust this guidance and follow it in the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
And ever since then, it's like the favorite thing I do. And when you find something that you love, that you didn't know you were good at it, and you didn't know you would love it, and it presents itself to you, and suddenly you realize, well, because I was being utilized. I wasn't.
You were the channel. Yeah.
I didn't think of it. I didn't make it happen. I didn't use my egoic needs to kind of be seen in a certain way.
Right,
it was just downloaded. And to this day, when I do this, it's so refreshing because I'm not there.
Right.
I'm just being used, right?
Wow.
And it's so rewarding. I'm so excited we're talking about this because I had no idea that I was going to talk about this. So it's cool. So what happened was, back to 2 years ago, I'm at the spa and I did 3 of these events, hour-long events at the spa. And every day there was this woman who kept to herself very much. And on the 3rd day, she started to cry, and I just didn't say anything. She felt very private. And later that day, her cousin came to me and said, "Did you notice Marjorie or whatever?" And I said, yeah. I've never seen, I'm her cousin. I've known her 50 years. I've never seen her cry once in her life, ever.
Oh, wow.
And she wants to talk. She wants to talk to you. So I said, great. So we ended up setting up breakfast the next morning. And she said, I think you might be able to help my family. And I said, oh yeah, what's going on? He said, well, we have a family business that's 4 generations, and the grandfather founder, my father, died 7 years ago, and then COVID happened, and we're off the rails. The 3rd and 4th generation is completely. We've lost our connection as a family. This is a succession meeting we do every year. And because the daughters are CEOs of the company, and they're in their mid-60s, and they want to give them the right to pass it on without forcing them, right? But just
as well. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Giving them the opportunity to have every shot at it. And when I found out that this was one of the wealthiest families in all of Canada, they're like the Halliburton of Canada. And so I went, this is unusual. So she wanted me to do a concert and a soul song. And I just went, okay. And I contacted her, sent her email, nothing for 3 months. Finally, her assistant calls me and says, she wants to talk to you. And I asked them, how often have you had a leader for these 3-day retreats for your family? She said, we did it last year. And I said, how successful was it? She said, I'm like a 5 out of 10. I said, well, would you give me, I think I could do better than that. Could you give me, I'll bring on a leadership consultant, and can you give me the opportunity to design the whole 3 days rather than just what you were thinking? She said, sure, that's great. And suddenly I was interviewing each of the members of the 9 members of the family over months and prepared a 3-day experience. Long story short, because this is a lot longer than I thought it would be, I got to see what my core gift is. and how it could actually support this end of the third quarter of my life in a way that I've been floating lost at sea after leaving Hollywood, not knowing. Because now with the amount that you make from like, I have a lot of albums that I've created. And in the old days, iTunes, I could get 30 cents a track per download. And now it's 0.008 cents.
Oh my goodness.
Per stream. It's a travesty. It's wrong. It's unsustainable, and it's destroying the music creators market. It has to be righted, and it isn't yet, and something's got to be done. But it's been very hard to make a living as a creator since that. So I basically was wondering what and how can I do this? And basically I used music with this leadership coach that I brought in as my collaborator to face your shadow. And we created experiences for them to be safe, feeling radically authentic.
Right, authentic and vulnerable because the safety that you create,
because
the safe
of the
space.
music. And they kept on saying, when they started talking about, what's happening here? The music is like cracking us open. And I ended up doing the soul song for the oldest member of the community, of the family, the youngest. And then I did a joint soulful song for the family's vision for the next 5 years of the company. And it turned into an anthem. And they're all coming around the piano and they're hugging and they're singing. And this anthem, I went later and I went to a professional studio and I recorded all 3 soul songs professionally and gave it to them as a gift. And it was a high ticket item, but when I left these 3 days with the person that I co-led this thing, it was beautiful. She did the work of John Shearer, which is 5 questions that change everything. Oh, you have a connection.
I've done executive leadership development intensive with John, and John's been on the podcast, and it's beautiful work. Yeah.
The woman I brought in is a very dear friend who's a 25-year veteran of John's work. Her name is Linnea Brinkerhoff. And we went in together. When we left the property, which is a beautiful property in Canada, snow and everything, we looked at each other and we went, what just happened? And it was like, it was beyond out of the park. It was something like I've always been trying to be everything for everybody and without a clue on how I would navigate this next phase of my life. I was identified as a film, TV composer in the 80s and 90s, but I left it to become focused on using music to help people navigate transitions from birth to death. Because I have books and CDs to deepen the end of life process, the beginning of life process, and many other things. I have a whole set of things that you could have seen on my website if it hadn't been destroyed 3 months ago, but I'm restoring it and it'll be a few months before it gets there. But the clarity and the simplicity of realizing that my superpower is actually effectively catalyzing safety for people to feel vulnerable and authentic. And it was so elegant and it was so simple. And all along I've been going through lists of like, what am I going to do? And how am I going to make a living? And I still have a massive, my reputation and my resume. It's impressive, but that and 50 cents gets you on the subway. So this thing really created a demarcation in because it wasn't only me gratifyingly learning what I do best. It made me feel like whatever it is about the soul song process that makes me feel like I can disappear and be an act of real service.
Yes.
It also helped me feel a core thing about my joy that I didn't really know, which is I love harmonizing and healing conflicts. And having grown up in a family with tons of fighting and tons of harshness and, lots of challenges, I'm really good at it and I love it. And so it wasn't being I love composing. I love performing. I love all the things I'm doing musically, but I suddenly saw this is so what I'm wired for, and it gave me a way forward. So when I'm launching our new website, GaryMalkin.com, there's going to be a silo, how to work with Gary. And one of it is high ticket. It would be family businesses, family philanthropies, and global C-suites to create radical authenticity, to really identify your why. so that there's no pretense. Because my line out of this whole experience that I'm going to put on my website, vulnerability and authenticity are the currencies of true transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't change and bring people together if you don't actually have radical authenticity. And that, especially now, that which AI can never do is to create something that you can never lie about it. Your body is, people know when they're in the face of authenticity. But music has this remarkable ability when it's designed for that purpose. And that's what I've devoted my life to, is music to crack open the heart. Because then this is the last thing I'll say. What I've learned is the only truly effective working heart is a heart that's been broken.
This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by MidLife Transition Mastery. If you have reached midlife and you are successful, you have checked all the boxes. You've done everything you thought you should do, and especially pleasing everybody else, doing what you think everyone else needs you to do. But you still feel like something's missing. Like you're coming up empty, feeling alone, feeling misguided or lost. MidLife Transition Mastery Explorer community is for you. Here we will build authentic community. We will learn about the 8 steps to mastering midlife transition. And we will learn and execute living life with no regrets in our second half. Please check out the community on lifeintransition.online/MLTM, Midlife Transition Mastery. And I look forward to seeing you around the fire in this community. Yeah. So you use music to reach through the thinking mind and into the heart and open it. And when you had this realization, Gary, about what it is that is yours authentic gift to do, how long after when you first started walking in the wilderness, when you first started feeling lost, until you had that realization?
Well, it was when I lost all the money that I had, that I worked so hard towards. I mean, I made millions and I lost it all after I gave them. So that's 2011. So I would say it's 14 years in the desert.
Until you had this experience, which this experience was just recently then.
November of 24.
Okay, so November. I know you said November, but I was,
13,
last November.
13 years, yeah. So, and if you took a picture of me in that, driving back to that airport with my friend, Linnea, it reminds me of something that, because I've done a lot of keynote speeches at National Hospice and Palliative Care Association around this work, Graceful Passages, which helps people accept dying as a part of the cycle of life and ameliorate fear and avoidance of dying as a way to radically be grateful for the life's preciousness. And that's so that's what I do also, is I give keynotes about that. But when Linnea and I met and we drove back to the airport, I felt like it was just everything, like the end of life. You could have a horrible relationship with your father or your mother, and in the last 2 minutes, there could be a moment where the forgiveness happens and something changes, and it sheds a whole different light on the whole lifetime of struggle in just those 2 minutes, right?
Yes.
That was what it felt like for me, is that after all this incredible financial insecurity and staying in the face of courage and being committed to my mission, but all the while wondering, what the hell am I going to do? And everything sort of felt like, oh, this is what I'm here for. And everything changed. And so now, instead of...
I want to drill into that for a second, though, Gary.
Yeah.
You said everything changed.
Yeah.
What does that mean? When you're saying everything changed, what does that mean?
Well,
what changed?
One way to summarize it is, I use this story, is that some people are pessimistic, and I call that they have a propensity to look at the glass half empty.
Right.
And I grew up with that endless half empty Russian Jewish, New York, everything's suffering, victim, life is hard, and then you die, right? So I grew up, everyone in my family has been like that, right? And everything changed in the sense that I wasn't just interested in looking at the glass half full and reversing my multi-generational trauma that I grew up with.
Right.
I suddenly was grateful for the glass.
Okay.
The whole thing.
Yeah, whether it's the half empty part or the half full part, you were grateful for the glass. Right?
I suddenly found like my journey had led to clarity about how I could serve in a way that didn't require me to do or be anyone other than myself. And that was so, and that was so
dude,
liberating.
Say that again, because that is so powerful, Gary.
Well, I was struggling to try to figure out how I was going to get out of the mess that my passion and purpose for helping people through life's transitions. And it was, I touched 1 million people with this work called Graceful Passages. And, I can't tell you, I wouldn't have been as productive, clearly, if I was secure. Because if you look at all the things I've created, not only in the last 25 years, but the last 14 years, you can't believe that one person has done all this. But it's me constantly throwing shit at the barn, hoping that something will stick. And from a nervous system point of view, it's not sustainable. I'll die earlier than I would have, because it was just unsustainable. It was that's a place from fear, right? And so what I said was, I finally got to a place where it was given to me was that I'm going to be just fine, because all I'm being asked to do is entirely based on being myself, more than I ever had, in a way that I can disappear in it, right? And I have to tell you, this is the first time I've talked about this. I've never publicly talked about it, because there's a little bit of shame, like what did I do wrong? I mean, the man in the culture to actually struggle. I was on the top of the heap. I had the largest music production company in the San Francisco Bay Area from 1980 to 1998, until I had a serious accident and everything fell apart, for me to learn about the reality of our mortality, through the accident showed me that anything can happen, and these things are often very strange gifts that awaken us, right? But
it was still 14 years, even after you lost all your money, which was, a lot tied up in your identity. Totally. 14 years of walking in the desert.
And, and over relying on the need to be liked and approved of by the world. It kept me from developing a deeper intimacy with my God. I was overly interested in the currency of approval rather than the connection to God.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Like, I mean, my wife and I are going through a big shift right now, and this is so pertinent. Like this morning, like last night, I was doing the work, I call it in my men's group, right? Shadow work, emotional trauma processing, because I've been going through it. I've been walking through the dark night of the soul. I've been walking through the forest. And one of the processes that this man suggested last night was to, like you talked about, to be with God, but with no agenda, just to be, right? So I'm with God a lot, but there's always an agenda. God, tell me what I should do today. What's this? What's that? How should I go forward? What's the action? So who should I be? It's all good stuff. But dude, I can tell you it's so much different to just be. Right. So this morning when I woke up, as I've been doing most mornings the last couple of months, at 3:00, and I do a sleep meditation, try to go back to sleep or listen to something. Finally at whatever it was, 4 a.m., I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to use this time to be with God. And if I happen to go back to sleep, great. So I just invite it with no agenda. I just lay there and say, okay, God, come in, and then where do I want to be with God? And I went to this mountaintop in New Mexico. That's just, 12,000 foot, but it's a bald with grass. It's like a meadow up on top of this mountaintop where I like to hike, and, sat there. But it was just so, like, something melted in me, like my grayness, my glass half empty, which I'm not one of those guys, right? I'm always a glass half full guy. But something melted in me with just this beingness, right? To just allow God to, it sounds funny because I was going to say allow God to be with me. I think God's always there. Allow myself to be with God, right? Without any agenda. And then from there, I could start to be, to use your words, Gary, I could start to be grateful for the glass. right? I mean, there's been so many changes in the last few months, and it has been, and I feel like, at the time I didn't know why. I sold the house I raised my kids in. My wife and I moved before this house. We've moved 20 something times in 20 years of marriage.
My God.
3 continents. Jeez. Then we've settled in here, raised the kids. But I got clear I should sell the house. But then I moved into a rental house that I really didn't like. And it's got all these problems and the landlord doesn't want to fix them. And I thought, why am I doing this? Why is my life? And my life I seem so lost, right? Like no direction. Like I have all these things that I'm doing, but nothing feeling. And then my wife and I went to Modern Elder Academy, Chip Connolly's Modern Wisdom School in Mexico.
Oh, God, I told you I'm dying to connect up with him somehow. Maybe we'll talk.
Yeah, no, and I could connect you guys. He's a beautiful soul. And there I went from feeling lost to feeling good, being, sharing some of my gifts, learning from other people there. But the most beautiful one was my wife. Seeing her as equal, 100% to me, which I always felt somehow, and it's horrible to say, but a little bit better. I was the one that earned the money. I'm the one with the big job, blah, blah, blah. And then seeing her and her passion and power, sharing with helping other people. And then at the end, getting very clear that what she wants to do is, kids are out of the house. They're 2 still in college, but they're out of the house. Parents are all healthy. She's like, I want to do my dream now, which is to open up this tea cafe on the beach. So I'd been knowing about a tea cafe for decades, right? We've been talking about that. The on the beach part, now I know she's a beach girl, but the on the beach part was new to me. So we're close, we just got a contract on a house on Amelia Island, Florida. And she's opening up Coastal Tea Cafe whenever it fits, and I'm totally excited to support her. Totally freaked out because I never thought about living on the beach. I've never thought about living in Florida,
oh my God.
But to see her on fire for that, but it's still so much change all at once, and so many things, and leaving my big career a few years ago and then going from making tons of money to making a lot of money in a consulting company to not making any money. And, it's just, there's been so many changes, and yet it's so beautiful to see her. And if I can, as I had posted on my desk decades ago, be still and know that I am God, like to be still and just appreciate and be with God, and maybe I'll be able to start to see the glass. Like you talked about, I love that, to be grateful for the glass, not just see it, but seeing is actually being grateful, to really see it because authentic, right? And I love the word, I see you, instead of even I love you, but I see you.
I love that from Avatar.
So powerful. Like I love you has so many different definitions and so much charges, and everybody thinks something different about it, but to see someone, it's really clear.
Totally.
Right?
Well, because one of the greatest challenges that most children feel, especially in a culture that doesn't honor the power of bonding for the kind of medicalized birthing system we have in our culture, which I've spoken a lot of pre and perinatal conferences as well around the bonding process, is that when people aren't bonded, and then on top of that, we have a narcissistic culture that's obsessed with doing all the time.
Yes.
And therefore, the result is children that never feel seen and held, just for being themselves.
Right.
And that form of wounding, we all know because most of us have had it, is so insidious. It creates a real challenge. But finish, because I
want to add on that too. Like if you haven't read The Boy That Was Raised by a Dog by Dr. I want to say William Perry.
Oh, I want to know that. No.
He through that book, you get to see that if you extend that not being held and seen and loved, almost any human that's not held and seen and loved at all in the first 3 years becomes a sociopath.
Well, then I'm a sociopath.
Well, but not, so maybe not all of them. You're the case study, but it's really amazing. And I've, having adopted kids, I've seen tracks of that, right? Where they're not cared for the first year of their life, right? And how difficult that is to teach love, to teach love is only by being loved.
Yeah.
Right? There's a woman in that book that they called her Mama something. I can't remember her name, but she would take, young adults and late teens, kids, and hold them like a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then for years, right? 2 or 3 years, she would treat them like an infant in a sense. And then they would slowly learn to speak the language of love. It's amazing.
Art, there's so much areas of resonance you and I have with each other because I did a deep dive into creating a book and CD set and a CD and a musical about the dynamics of childbirth and what could happen as a result of conscious birthing and conscious bonding, right? And what you just said was so powerful because there's you can even bond. It's never too late. What we learned is it's never too late to bond, right?
Right.
And you can even bond with the prenatal bonding in the womb just through energetic, right? So a lot of this book we created called Safe in the Arms of Love, Deepening Your Essential Bond with Your Baby, which is a beautiful CD set on my former creative partner's website, lisarafael.com. Safe in the Arms of Love is a postnatal book, and then Journey of Our Lives is the prenatal book. But what it is when you can actually be there and a lot of mothers, new mothers, are on their phones with their baby in their arms, and they don't realize that this baby is a sentient being that can feel you're not present with him.
Absolutely.
With her or him. And they don't think, how could a baby this new actually notice that I'm not paying attention? It's such a deep travesty and a misunderstanding of these beings that feel presence.
Yeah.
And they feel the absence of presence when there's mothers not. And it's scary because in this day and age, it's insidious because, one of the things that you reminded me of when you were talking, one of my closest friends who died, Jeremy Geffen, he was one of the world's most celebrated integrative oncologists. He wrote the book, The Journey to Cancer, 7 Levels of Healing. And he died of cancer about 7 years ago. And one of the things he shared in one of his keynotes that I loved is, another way to determine your soul emotional health is looking at the quotient of your life in terms of being and doing. And so my obsession after having lost all my money, when I lost all the money, was it brought out the worst in me. And suddenly thinking I'm the doer, the ego,
you're doing all the time.
Got to get out the strategy. My ratio of doing to being just went from, let's say it was always a little out because I'm an extrovert and I always think it's me. But it went from 70-30 to 98-2. It's and that's what I meant. It was unsustainable. So this idea of looking, well, what are behaviors? This is part of my keynote when I talk to healthcare conferences. What are the being and doing behaviors, right? And intuitively.
Seeing somebody as being, holding space, bearing witness, loving, giving attention. I love that quote. I don't remember who said it right now, but the highest gift we can give another human being is the purity of our attention.
Right. And nature walks, resting, reverie, like things that are about nourishing the soul. And the doing is fixing, strategizing, accomplishing,
problem solving.
Yeah. So when I saw that I was really in trouble in that way, that's why I started wondering, for years really, how's this going to turn out? I knew that I was on a addictive run. That I was addicted to being the doer, and
doing the doer,
and being the, losing the balance between being and doing was a very key recognition.
Yeah. That I can tell you how it turns out because I ended up in bed for 12 weeks with chronic fatigue syndrome from being the doer.
Well, I was going to say to you, Art, what you're going through right now, I just want to ask you to be a little kind to yourself because when I know about your career, what you share with me, you're in a very natural withdrawal process. You got to recognize, just like there's a grieving process that is required. The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Francis Weller, best book on grief I've ever read.
The Wild Edge of Sorrow.
Right. Okay. And he talks about how grieving is, first of all, it's not just a solo experience. It's a group experience. True grieving is a group.
Yeah, so that's interesting because I think most of us, I'll speak for myself. I know until the last few years, I felt ashamed to cry at all as a man. And I definitely wouldn't want to do it around anybody else.
Well, which is a being behavior. And you know what? I'm thinking about this conference that we're going to be a part of soon.
Right.
And this is what I get the chills just thinking about. When I kept on saying to Mark and Tammy, this is a conference called Disrupted. That's how I met you.
Yeah.
And it's called the Unconference. And when I one of the things I constantly say to Mark is this too woo-woo for this crowd? He looked at me and said, read my lips. You can't be too woo-woo. And then Tammy said, you know why? Because our humanity is our competitive advantage in the age of AI. And I went, ooh, can I use that? That's really good.
You sure can. And that's my section is humanity leadership, right? That's what I'm talking on. And
so I just want to
hackathon with them. So
I want to put the mirror up to you and say, I think you need a little bit of humanity leadership on your own inner evolutionary process. Because when you look at what it put you through to accomplish that level of success that you were on at the highest level, right? I think you need to look at yourself with a little spacious compassion about the fact that, of course, you're going to have a withdrawal process. Yeah. You were a doerholic at the highest level.
I'm a workaholic. That's my 12-step program, which has been super beneficial for me. It's the 12 steps as far as a walk with God and getting closer to God. As I joined Workaholics Anonymous in 2020.
Yeah,
in the bed with chronic. I didn't even know what it was at the time.
Wow.
And afraid that I was going to be fired if my company found out I was sick. One mistake on my 25, 30 year track record, and then I'd be fired in 5 minutes. That was how much fear I had as well.
Wow.
Right.
That's beautiful. I mean, just that you hit a wall was the best part of you, that you knew you couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a fractal. Like looking back, I could see smaller fractals. I'd come home for Christmas, be sick the whole week. Right. So the day that we shut down the company from travel because of COVID, from international travel, and this is I think it's in episode 6 or 7 of my podcast, this story. But that day I couldn't get out of bed. And I was not completely in bed the whole time, but I was in bed 20 hours a day for somewhere around 10 to 12 weeks.
That makes perfect sense to me.
And then I thought, well, it's just been 25, 30 years of the fractal. It's now catching up to me. Right. But I had so much fear and so much anxiety and didn't even know, and I was super successful on getting stuff done and even leading people the right way and everything else. But was doing it out of insecurity, not enoughness, pleasing the man. Right. And pretending that I wasn't human, pretending that I was a machine or a Superman or something. Right.
Honestly, Art, this is a perfect segue to what it is I'm most passionate about right now that I'm heavily involved in. So this is a really great segue if I can make it take.
Yes, please.
So, basically what you just talked about was in a culture that doesn't acknowledge this content, which includes acknowledging the grief necessary from the unraveling of a hyper-doing life, which includes a hyper-thinking life. The linear, rational, frontal cortex engaged. So
all the time,
right. So what having released a work that is now called the most powerful intervention for the alleviation of fear and anxiety around end of life and grief. That's called Graceful Passages.
Right.
For 25 years, I've been sharing about this in the world. And what I've learned after 25 years is that human beings are such a noble creature. And when they're unless they're narcissistic or mentally ill, when they're in the face of someone who's at the end of their life or is facing a life-threatening illness, most people call upon the nobility of their humanity with these qualities: empathy, compassion, spaciousness, forgiveness, respect, presence, love, all these great qualities. But in mainstream media and in the mainstream work world and in the mainstream everything, you would never know that those qualities were part of our human experience because of a world-class denial of death, grief, loss, and illness. That it's such a youth obsessed culture, right?
Yeah.
So this perfect storm, hear this, one of the world's greatest experts on grief, Kenneth Druck, Dr. Ken Druck, a good friend of mine. He was one of the first people that was the one that was brought when Columbine happened, the first gun violences, and he was on CNN with I forget, who's that famous CNN host that doesn't do anything, Larry King, and he did a study that found out that 98%, 95% of all violent acts are as a result of unassimilated grief. It's a simple way to say hurt people, right?
Yeah.
But so you have a perfect storm of a culture that completely wants to deny the existence of death, loss, and permanence and grief. They will not, in culture after culture, in media after media, it's all a big denial, right?
Right.
And then it feeds the addiction to avoid that subject. Well, what I'm building is an initiative that is perhaps the most exciting thing that I've ever done in my life, and it's I think what I was born here to do. And it's a long story. I won't go into how it was created. Bottom line, it's like an urban festival. I envisioned it as a 3-day experience, and I was about to produce it in Canada. But after the tariff craziness, then the animosities that it developed, it had to get after 12 months of work, the rug got pulled way back in early April. And then we were all set up to do this 3-day festival honoring the power of grief and celebrating our unity, multi-generational, multi-cultural, multi-religious, multi-racial, right? In this sea of divisiveness, this toxic divisiveness
that we're living
that
in
people are allowing under their watch because people are so overwhelmed, overexhausted, fragmented, and unable to think that they could do good about it. That it's going on. Right.
Yeah, they're not being. They're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're caught in the wheel,
treadmill.
Right? So I came up with this idea. What is the one thing that every culture on the planet can share? Everyone grieves and everyone celebrates.
Yeah.
So I created an event. It's coming up in a month. I tried to get major stars. I approached Joan Baez. I approached Bonnie Raitt. Bonnie's a friend. I approached Bobby McFerrin. None of them with such a short lead time could do it. And I'm saying, what do I do? I don't have a draw. I don't have a major draw. And everybody's saying to me, Gary, you're the draw. I went,
there you go.
I'm not famous like that. And they said, but you're the conceiver of the experience. And so I'm collecting wisdom keepers representing indigenous, spirituality, religion, singer-songwriters, a choir, a whole collection of amazing beings. The day long is a workshop called Graceful Passages from Grief to Gratitude, and it's for 70 people. It's the maximum we can fit at the famous, the courtyards across the courtyard at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, one of the iconic cathedrals on the planet. And then in the evening is a concert, a peace concert. And my partners are the iconic organization that 41 years ago created the International Day of Peace, sanctioned by the United Nations, called Pathways to Peace. And they love me and they love my work. And so we partnered to do this event that's going to be globally broadcast through streaming.
Nice.
And we still need to raise money for this thing. We've raised half our goal of $40,000, but we are going to have a fundraiser on September 4th on a Zoom call, and hopefully people can do a GoFundMe. But bottom line is, we're doing this concert called We Rise, a celebration of connection, compassion, and hope. And it's about celebrating our unity and diversity. And it's kind of feels like what I was born for. And the innovation is respecting people's intelligence enough to help them see that what breaks us open makes us whole. You can't create unity without peace, and you can't create peace without healing the thing that made you believe that you were separate.
Right.
And that's where the grief comes in. So I hope that's not complicated.
The whole thing that comes back around to, like, the only open heart is a broken one.
Exactly.
Right. And that we're all, if you take it in Christian speak, we're all broken. We're all sinners. And that commonality is where we can connect and create unity and quit judging each other. Right. And see what's best about each other.
So again, you see I'm just seeing something I never saw. What happened with that family was they lost their faith in their connection to each other. And at the end of it, they were reconnected in spades. They said it was the most powerful reconnection. They're going to live on. It really put them on the right track, right? Well, in a sense, it's the same thing as a human family.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. What you're doing there at the concert. So that's the same. Yeah, it was interesting. There's two things you're born to do, but it's actually the same thing. And both those. It's It's actually the same thing. And I love what Jerry Colonna says. I love Jerry Colonna is a great coach from New York. Wrote the book Reboot, but he says that all business issues. So you could say all human issues, but all business issues are interpersonal issues. Like and to solve that connection, it starts with opening our own hearts so that we can be open to the connection with the other. Exactly. Right. And that's what you're using music to do. He does it in his coaching practices. I do similar things in my coaching practices, but music is such a beautiful way to do it. And it cuts through. I'm sure you know more about this even than I do, but I've been fascinated reading about the studies with Alzheimer patients where they play music for them. And then all of a sudden they're singing and reconnecting with things. Like it somehow goes past the part of the brain that's not functioning anymore for normal verbal communication.
Have you seen the documentary Alive Inside?
No.
Go find it. You and your wife will love it. It's one of those documentaries that is so rewarding and satisfying. You'll have goosebumps and cry through the whole thing. And it's amazing. It's called Alive Inside. And I just want to say this idea, just to finish up about this idea, the reason why we want the budget that we need is we want to create a campaign and a sizzle reel to communicate this to mayors and venue holders and visionaries in different cities across America, because we believe it fills a need, a vacuum, that people are much more interested in looking at what unites us than that which divides us.
And right now, the popular press, and it's always been that way because it sells on bad news, right? But it's been especially that way the last 10 or 15 years,
right?
Where we really focus on what separates us more than what divides us. I remember even, Lord, this was 2012 probably. I was living in China. I was back for Christmas, and I was sort of excited. Like in China, I didn't watch any TV because it was mostly in Chinese, and my Chinese is very bad. So I was sort of excited about having the TV on. So when I got home and here in Tennessee, and I turned on the TV, and it was on I think it was on Fox News. I'm not sure, but it was two people screaming at each other about what color Jesus was. And I thought, okay. This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by Transition Mastery Coaching. If you have made it to midlife and you're successful and you are going through transitions in your life, in your business, in your career, or in your organization, and you are looking to master those transitions, to make the most of them, to accelerate into the next phase of your organization or your life. If you're facing, challenges in your business, challenges in your relationship, challenges in your health, and you really want to transition those quickly, I'm here to guide you for that. And I look forward to working with you. And you can sign up for either Pinnacle Transition Coaching or Summit. Please go to lifeintransition.online/MLTM and scroll to see the Summit and Pinnacle Coaching, or reach out to me directly on my email, art@artblanchford.com. And I look forward to connecting with you and helping you to accelerate your transitions to achieve what it is that you want to achieve in the second half in your organization and in your life, so you can live your whole life with no regrets. Never mind. I didn't miss so much in not having TV for the last year and just turned it off. But that's what we've become. Like it's like a car wreck. We can't help ourselves. If there's something going on that's violence or chaos, we have to watch it. It's our amygdala. So mostly I just don't turn the TV on anymore, and I haven't for years because of that. Right. So that's, but I think you're right that people want to feel this way, but we're so turned into, watching the car wrecks going on the TV all the time. That's actually much more separate. Awesome. Me too. Couple of questions, Gary. Where do you think, if you hadn't had this transition, this opportunity to create this soul song that came out of adversity, doing something that you didn't feel like you could do and surrendering to a power greater than yourself, if you hadn't had that transition, where do you think your life would be now?
There's an enormous amount of pain in my family. Most of the family members have died. I have a brother who's facing a serious diagnosis right now, and I don't think it might not be here for long. And I
Yeah.
only have two brothers left, and I there, but for the grace of God go I. I think that I think that I'm the only one that really whose life was saved by the ultimate being vehicle, which is music. And by the way, not all music was built the same. It's not just any music. It's music that uplifts, inspires, and generates life, right? That's a real important distinction to make. Everybody talks about, yeah, I mean, I love music that makes you nostalgic for a past memory. That's always great. But it's not all music that is generative, right? But so I would say that where
Though
I would be,
even music that I would say is not generative, and I know what I speak here from my son's experience of healing. Even music that's not generative can be used for healing because very what I would consider very tough music like deathcore. If it can be used as a way of expressing your anger in a way that you don't know how else to do it safely, it can be very good for the soul work anyway, rather shadow work.
Another way to talk about that is it's the ultimate being the experience, right? It puts you in a part of the brain that is, and it puts you in the part of your heart and soul that isn't in the taxing, trying, doing, fixing, allowing.
Right,
that is doing
right. Puts you in experiential mode instead of problem solving mode.
So that's true. Yeah, in that sense, creating music, playing music, listening to music that you love, what could be better than that, right?
Yeah. Good reminder for me to do that a little bit more often. Thank you. So coming back to this, you were saying that, you have a lot of people that you've lost in your family and your life was saved by the music. If you hadn't had this connection or have this path, where do you think, what would be the trajectory that you'd be on right now?
A lot of people tell me that I have an infectious love and passion for my purpose, that really is a fountain of youth for me. I almost feel like on some level the grand orchestration plan was that God said, like, well, he really does think that his value is how much money he has in the bank and how good his abs are and how much of a man he can be and all these external markers of success. I think we need to take everything away and let's see if Gary can find self-acceptance and self-love even with no money. In a family that grew up thinking that money was the only way to be valuable, right? And I think it was designed so that I couldn't retire.
Right. So you have to keep adding value. You can't just go hide somewhere behind a gated mansion. And
I think that I am lucky because my sense of purpose and passion about it and my gift musically has given me a little bit of a fountain of youth. So I think where would I be without getting out of the treadmill of thinking that I have to fix, strategize, and figure out with my mind how I'm going to get out of this mess. Yeah. Instead, I probably would have retired to a Mexican community and lived on my Social Security and gotten fatter.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, but I think it's important to differentiate. And, I think about John O'Donohue's poem, Beginnings, and he talks about your eyes being young again with energy and dream, and I feel that energy from you for sure. Two more questions for you, Gary.
Wait, but what was that poem? John O'Donohue's one of my
John O'Donohue. Oh,
he's one of my favorite
amazing
people.
Spirit.
Unfortunately,
died recently, very, very suddenly.
Not so recently. I was there with David White, who was his best friend, at a meditation retreat 10 years ago or whenever it was.
Wow, it's been that long already. Holy cow.
Literally an hour, like a day after he died. So it's like, I remember David White, the poet, was sung.
Yeah. No, David. I don't know either of them personally, but I didn't even discover John O'Donohue until, 2023.
Yeah.
So very recently, but this poem on a blessing for new beginnings or blessing for beginnings, I read almost every day.
Wow, I wouldn't have found it.
Beautiful. Anyway, beautiful spirit. But I have that book and I took a picture of that poem and I have it in my phone so I can read it every morning. question is, for somebody that's going through transition right now,
which, by the way, is a whole world right now.
Okay, so let me put it this way. For somebody who recognizes that they're going through maybe a difficult transition right now, what tool, if you could give them one thing that they could apply right now, they could hit pause button on this podcast and do this one thing that would help them in whatever way you think is most important as they go through this transition, what would that tool be, Gary?
A few things come to mind.
Okay.
One of the things I've learned is inner child work is so important. Every single human being has an inner child that is there till the day they die. And someone recently said to me, Gary, think of yourself as your own first. I am my own first child. And now, if I gave 1/100th of love, energy, attention that I give to my daughter, to me, right, I'd be so better off because I don't think of myself as that. So that's one thing I would say. Don't be afraid to explore and discover a relationship with the soft belly, the fragile, sensitive being that is tender and that is a little child inside. Don't ever think you're too much of a man because every human being needs that. Okay, number one. That's one thing.
I 100% support that. I want to give a couple concrete tools that have been really useful for me in that space. One is just to take your 5-year-old, find a picture of your 5-year-old and take him on a date, take her on a date, ask them what they want to do and go do that thing with them. That's a very simple task you can do. I'm going to put 2 other ones out there. One I've been using for a long time before I even knew this was a thing is parts work, parts therapy, Richard Schwartz.
Yeah, definitely.
Super effective way of connecting with your inner child, children, and helping them to heal and to grow and mature. And the last one I want to give a plug for here is the Hoffman process.
Have you done it?
I have done it. Yes.
I know.
Last year.
I know I know the guys that've been running it, Raz and Liza. For the last 40 years. They've been friends of mine. They're very close friends of mine.
Very nice. And so beautiful people. He was just on Oprah's podcast talking about Hoffman process.
Oh my God, fantastic.
Raz was. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh,
and they have their own podcast now too, but just the healing of what they call the emotional child.
Yeah. My daughter just did it, by the way, 33 years old.
Wonderful.
Changed her life. But
no, it's really beautiful. So those are in that order of maybe complexity, but those are some tools that people can apply to really to go toward healing of the inner child or growing up of the inner child.
Absolutely. And so that's a perfect segue to the second thing I was going to say, which is, have you ever heard of, so I have a dear friend I was roommates in college with who turned out to be one of the founders of HeartMath.
Beautiful. Yes.
HeartMath is a big thing for Joe Dispenza, and it's proven technology for healing stress. His name is Bruce Cryer, and he has a brucecryer.com. He and I created a keynote speech that we still offer called What Makes Your Heart Sing? Harnessing the Power of Passion for a Life of Flow and Fulfillment, right? And so one of the things I underestimated, and I think most people might find this to be true, it certainly was for me, when you are a doaholic, it's not that easy to really identify what really makes your heart sing. Because your priority becomes so focused on producing
whatever it is in front of you.
Right. That you don't think about, you think delight and is frivolous and meaningless and not important.
Gary, this is striking such a chord in me. Such a chord. I mean, it's because I wonder sometimes why I have such a hard time. Like people talk about, Joseph Campbell, the big question is, you're going to say a hearty yes to your adventure. I'm always like, but what's my adventure?
Exactly.
Right.
And I can remember. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just remember, when one of the ahas came to me, like when I was an executive in this active safety autonomous driving company, and we were at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, and they were talking about, hey, maybe you could be a keynote speaker, not the big keynote, like, but one of the speakers at CES, how many followers do you have on LinkedIn and what do you talk about on autonomous driving? And I just thought I could give a shit about autonomous driving. So then what am I doing here? Like, why am I putting on my energy? I'm busy doing and being very successful, but the heart's clearly not in it. Right. So I never connected that with having a hard time to really connect with our desire and our heart. If we're a doaholic, workaholic in my case, but a doaholic is maybe more accurate because it's not just work that we can be workaholic about.
No, in fact, I've often felt that the 12-step program that I really felt that I would be best suited for would be Doaholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
Well, I wish there was such a thing like that.
Well, there pretty much is. It's called Workaholics Anonymous, and we have a wonderful meeting on Saturdays, and it covers that. It covers the addiction to activity, workaholics and activity addicts.
Is it online?
Yeah, our meeting is a call-in meeting.
Could you share that with me later?
Absolutely, I sure will. Yeah, 10 a.m. Central Time on Saturdays. It's a great meeting. We never went back to in person after the pandemic. Wow. And it's it's a global meeting now from Vancouver to London every week. So.
I definitely have been praying for something like that. So that's great.
I will send you some stuff on that.
Yeah. That's wonderful. This is the thing. Like the Mankind Project. I love that so much. Men have been so caught. There's a fabulous documentary I highly recommend called The Mask I Live In, or We Live In. And it's somewhere, but you got to find it. Gavin Newsom's
You've made my doing list so much longer. All these things I want to watch and listen to.
Yeah, me too. Well, Gavin Newsom's wife, Jessica Newsom, created this. And it will just bring you to your knees in terms of understanding what we men have been saddled with. And
it's called the masking. Is that the name of it?
The Mask We Live In, or The Mask I Live In. The Mask We or I Live In. And it's on one of the streaming sites. And what it is when you realize that it's not your fault. We were programmed to derive value from producing money, results, accolades, hero. Yeah. So that's the other thing I was going to suggest, was just starting to notice what delights you, what makes your heart sing, what makes your heart sing, the littlest things, the biggest things. And then the third thing I was going to say was the importance of being grounded in nature. And I myself have really allowed this move to the Northeast. I moved from the San Francisco Bay Area, which I lived in Marin County for 52 years. And a year ago, planning to move to Asheville, North Carolina, I fell in love with that community. And as I think I told you, I arrived a day before the hurricane, and all my plans were torn asunder. And ironically, I moved to friends, my co-partner in the u-awake.com work, that is the grief literacy workshop that I do.
Right.
And she lives here in Northwest Massachusetts. And I decided that I'm too much of a relational guy to live in a place that they're not they're friendly here, but it's not the same. So anyway, what I'm aware of is I need to modulate my life's overdoing with more nature and more.
Yeah. And it was funny because when you said what delights you or what makes your heart sing, the first thing that comes to mind for me is nature.
Yeah.
Right. To be out in the mountains, to be hiking. And, even with this move we're doing to the beach, I'm not a huge beach guy, but it's still nature. There's still something majestic and powerful about the ocean and being able to run on the beach every morning and see the stars. It's nature. We are meant to be in nature. In Michael Easterly's book, The Comfort Crisis, he talks a lot about the data. And there's lots of studies. I was a student at U of M a while back in Michigan, and they had a study going on there, just the difference of performance on math tests, whether you walked in the city, just in Ann Arbor, which is not really even a city, right? Even a small city, versus walking on a nature path with trees and grass and stuff, was like 10 or 12 points difference, controlled for everything else, right? Even just looking at pictures of nature on the screen versus pictures of a cityscape, right? Our biology is much older than our technology.
Right.
And nature centers us. I mean, one of the best experiences of my life was taking my 5 siblings, one brave sister-in-law, and 5 nieces and nephews on a 6-day off the grid, completely unsupported backpacking trip in Northwest Montana, where there was no cell phone coverage, no planes, no nothing, right? And just being immersed in nature. By day 3, you're completely centered and peaceful. If you turn off all technology.
Wow. That doesn't
so those are all.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, man, Art, you're going to be fine, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, because
starting to trust that 5% at a time, maybe.
There's so much you bring to the party, and frankly, I think the universe wants to utilize you as a really important catalyst for balance and change, especially for men. So I just feel like in order for you to be the portal you are, you got to give yourself time to acknowledge that it takes time to downshift from that level of being a duaholic to the degree that you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. I'll take that and I'll accept that. Thank you. Let that sink in for another 10 seconds.
Good. That's great. Demonstrate.
Be a being a little bit more before jumping on to the next doing.
And by the way, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying that's really speaking to me right now. So thank you.
And, in a way, actually, the whole trend from me moving from Hollywood into music for heart-centered mindfulness and for grief and for bonding is frankly, we focus on the things we need to heal most in ourselves. Yeah. And if you go to the Spotify or any streaming site and you say Gary Malkin, although there's one that I really want people to know about that is under the name Gary Ramal, Remal Malkin, which is the music of the Great Smoky Mountains, which could be probably
beautiful.
Oh, you got it?
By the way, beautiful, absolutely.
Oh,
beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, the reason, if you look at a lot of the work that's under Gary Malkin on Spotify and other things like that, stream, it's all that music is about slowing down into what I learned when my website was hacked 3 months ago, and I spent a lot of money and time developing this website that demonstrates all the ways that music and media can change our lives, and it was all destroyed. And what I had to develop was an understanding that, well, really all I have is my presence, and my presence is my power. And I just, it makes things really, clear. And most of the music that I've created over the last 10, 15 years, instead of the music of Unsolved Mysteries, which I did for 15 years, a television show, which has a lot of adrenaline, fear, and nightmare
right,
stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of that music is about spaciousness, about presence, and around cultivating the beer, frankly, because I needed it more than anyone I knew.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Yeah, I have midlife transition mastery groups for men that I'm coaching through right now because that's what I need, right? So that's beautiful. Gary, last question. And you've mentioned a lot of them already, but if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to connect with you? Website, email, I know you said it's under construction, LinkedIn, where is the best place if people have heard this and they want to ask you a question or they want to connect with you or find out more about your work? Or just Google you
so the only way right now that I can be reached is LinkedIn professionally. And Facebook is I have 2,000 people that have asked to be my friend that I don't even know, and I have 5,000 people and friends, so it's not a very practical place to reach me.
Right.
But also you-awake.com is the place where my grief literacy work is with Hope Fitzgerald.
And that's YOU or you?
YOU-awake.com.
Awake.com. Okay.
And then the thing that I talked about around We Rise as One. I want to encourage, if anyone gets to hear this before September 27th, and even after, because this is about taking this concept on the road, it's globalwisdomfoundation.org/We Rise. The .org period is just, you'll get to see the new nonprofit that I'm building. But the We Rise, this /We Rise, is that project. And if anyone wants to see the global broadcast or donate to help support this kind of work, that's where all my heart and soul is going to right now. And then, of course, anywhere things are streamed, the work that I'm most proud of, other than the scores to Thrive, the Thrive documentaries are some of the best scoring work I've ever done. And that you can find out about by going to YouTube or freetothrive.com. But Graceful Passages, A Companion for Living and Dying, for anyone, even if you're not dealing with somebody who's going through a life transition, the truth is we're all needing to attend to grief around what we're seeing in the world today. It's heartbreaking to see what's happening in Gaza and Ukraine, and it's heartbreaking to see in what's happening around the othering of people in the world. So Graceful Passages is what I would say is that doing being equation is a secret to like balance in life. The other one is allow yourself to grieve what's happening right now, because again, the only working heart is a broken heart, and that lets the light get in and helps us become who we really are. So anyway, there's a
Beautiful.
lot out there, but yeah, Google me, and those are some of the websites that I'm associated with. And Art, I tell you, you have some sort of Svengali approach to like getting people to open up their souls. It's this incredible I don't know. It's a wonderful quality you bring that makes me want to share everything.
Well, I appreciate you showing up so authentically today, Gary. It's a beautiful conversation spoken to me in many ways that I really need right now. And same with our listeners. So thank you for showing up wholeheartedly, bringing your presence, bringing your beingness to the Life in Transition podcast today, Gary. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Art, thank you. And listen, I don't know, this thing will live on, and in about 3 months, that my 2 new websites will be the ones that are the most important. So if you happen to hear this after September 20th or whatever, it's GaryMalkin.com. It's going to be created, and portalsofawe.com. And the Portals of Awe is going to be a community learning how to be as authentic and heart-centered in your life as you can possibly be. It's going to be a community of authenticity.
Awesome. Beautiful. Definitely something I look forward to being part of, Gary.
I can't wait.
So thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Art. Good continued success in your unfolding doer and balanced doing life.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take it. I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. It could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.